Hello, Internet. You're listening to the In Your House Comedy Podcast with
Kd and Kersey.
Now hold on to your butts. Keep your arms and legs inside the podcast at all times. Prepare to have an autographical orgasm in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Kd and Kersey podcast, the show where we talk about all things weird and or interesting, including topics such as true crime to creepy characters, from natural disasters to bizarre events in history. This is episode 8, and as always, I am your resident stand-up comedian, all-around creative juggernaut, Kd Hinken. And once again, I am joined by Rattletrap Spaceman Extraordinaire with a beautifully big head and some matching luscious hair. Please welcome Mr. Aaron Kersey. How are you, dude?
I'm all good, dude. I'm all good. Thank you for asking. How have you been this week?
Yeah, been all right, man. Stressful stuff as always. Fun stuff as always. The usual concoction of life.
Bit of balance in between there, so it's all good.
Yeah, we all live in the grey area, don't we?
Look at that little roller there. Sponsored
Yeah,
by
do you like that? Yeah.
Very, very cool. I like it. It's very newscasted. Is that the word? No. Hi, we're sponsored by Nobody's Variety Clothing.
Yeah, so before we get started, anyway, I did just want to talk about something.
Okay.
Like I said, it's in regards to UFOs. I suppose the title of it would be, Did I See a UFO?
Did you see a UFO?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm intrigued now. Is this your story? Have we started off already? Or
No, this is not the story. This is a random tidbit. I wasn't
man,
sure if I
okay.
wanted to say it. It was like 2 weeks ago now, or a
Yeah.
week and a half ago, something like that. And I felt like what I saw must have been, because I've looked at it so much and so interested in it lately, and I've read about it. I feel like what I saw can either go one or two ways. It can either go that I just kind of imagined it because I'm hoping to see that, or I knew what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
But my mum saw like the tail end of it too, like the end of what I saw. So, but I was just walking back from the quiz with her, and I looked up in the sky, like I always do. I always just look up and look around. And just I looked up and kind of in front of me in the dark sky, and it felt like it wasn't that far away. It was just like a white kind of ball, just kind of did like a weird curve thing, did like a weird curve thing and went up, and then stayed where it was, kind of vibrated, and then looked like it disappeared. But on reflection, looking like it disappeared could have easily just been it shooting off fast.
Yeah.
And even more thinking about it is that all the TikTok videos and all that say that they vibrate a load before they shoot off fast.
Weird. It's a shame you didn't get it captured. You could have been a
Oh
new.
yeah.
We call you Tic Tac Carl or Tic Tac KD. You know,
It looked just like that kind of thing as well. That was what was
that's a
weird
shame,
about
man.
it.
That's weird. But you never know, though. Do you? It could be stuff you're looking for, or just evidence that there's something there, man. There's something
Exactly.
there.
You never know. And it's like, because I've wanted to see something as well. It's like, am I just thinking that? But because I'm thinking that, I feel like it wouldn't be the case because I'm aware of that and questioning it. But then, am I just doing that? God knows.
You just go into that rabbit hole of questions, don't you? You know,
that's all I would
down
do.
And down. But no, that's interesting, man. I've never come across anything like it myself. So
really,
no, never.
I've been out with we used to do a lot of like big piss ups like over the field and stuff. When we got to college, we'd get all the college, because our media group was weirdly sound, like all of them in college. So we used to do big parties with them all in the field and stuff.
That's cool.
And one time, apparently they were somewhere and they said they saw some two weird things dotting around and like joined together and went off. I didn't see it, but yeah, that was something that a few people saw.
Yeah, something I'd like to experience, but obviously never have. So
it's either that or ghosts. I don't know what I'd prefer to have a proper experience with. I think ghosts still. I think I'd much prefer to have I just don't see that happening.
See, I have, but I never know if it's real or not. Oh. And don't forget, suffering from sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
we discussed it on this podcast before. It could have been something to do that, but it was when I was awake, like, and I was walking around. But I could have been sleepwalking. I don't know.
What was it? Explain it to me, because I've got something that I disregard now because the other person who's with me disregards it, but I don't.
Yeah.
But what is it?
I remember it was again when I was a bit younger, and I just remember going up to go to the toilet, and there was like this man like walking down the stairs, and I just remember like looking, thinking, "That's not my dad." That's not my dad. And then it was like a figure with like a balding man with glasses on, and he just walked down the stairs and he just disappeared. I must have been about 10 or 11, so old enough to be aware
that shouldn't be happening, and
but
aware of being awake at least, especially if you're walking.
And I vaguely remember because it's been some years now. I vaguely remember going to the toilet and like catching out the corner of my eye, and he walked down the stairs and he just disappeared. But I could have been, I don't know, man. I could have been sort of sleepwalking, or just maybe like the sleep paralysis is still there, but like my mind was like,
or maybe your mum and dad, like, to be fair, for could have been like getting busy, having a threesome, for they could, parents do these things too. You never know.
Well, and then the guy just like disappears. He's like gone.
That's just how you remember. You're young. The memory is terrible. Memory is a horrible thing. For example, my story, like me and Snowman were walking through the graveyard where there's apparently the white lady, and we were sober, and just saw this, like, at the other end of the graveyard, this woman bowing down like to the one grave, and she was glowing white, looked like she had a veil on, and then just kind of stopped after we were just staring there for a bit and kind of disappeared. That's how I remember it.
Weird, man.
That's how I remember it. It's like this probably happened back in, like, I don't know, like 2012 or something like that.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, Snowman now remembers it as a plastic bag. So
okay.
God knows.
Like you say, the memories are a weird thing, but hey ho.
Hey ho! Who's first this week, man?
I think it's myself. I think I let you go first last week because you gave me a little choice there. But you ever heard of anyone called Carl Tanzler? Carl?
Oh, well, I was about to say he's got a good name, but how is that spelled?
Not the same way as yours.
Oh, crap name.
Yeah, sorry. Carl Tanzler. No, never heard of him.
Nope.
We'll start off with, as we always do, a little bit of background on the gentleman that is known as Carl Tanzler. So he was a German-born radiology technologist at the Marine Hospital Service in Key West, Florida. He actually developed an obsession for a young Cuban-American tuberculosis patient by the name of Eleanor Milagro de Hoyos.
Oh,
I had to like watch a couple of videos to know how to pronounce that name. So I just need a little pat on the back there.
Well done.
So
what was he again? Sorry, just to clarify.
No, that's fine. So he was a radiology technologist. Basically, that means, when you go to have X-rays done.
Yeah.
And you'll have, I don't know, someone there assisting you with that, taking photos of your bones. That's what he did. That was his job in Florida. And he developed an obsession over this Cuban American. But it actually carried on well after the disease had caused her death.
Okay.
There you go. So I'll start you off with that. So
looks like he was as well.
He was. This one's a little bit messed up.
Same. This is our dark week this week, remember?
It is. We should have entitled it like a subcategory of dark week.
We can post.
Yes, post it. Can you say
post it? I mean, do it in post production.
Post production. Post it like that.
Write a letter.
Can you say, are there any fans of necrophilia out there? Or is it weird?
Well, there's definitely fans of it, 100%.
Yeah, but what about people who like to hear about stories about it, or are intrigued by stories about it?
Oh,
maybe that's the right word to use.
Anything macabre is interesting. Anything where you don't quite understand how someone gets to that is interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know where we're going now, don't you?
I think I can do a guess.
Okay.
Cool. Guess
Cool.
that there maybe.
So so I'll give you a bit of background of Carl Tanzler, as we always do. He was born to a Jewish family as Carl Tanzler, or George Carl Tanzler, on February the 8th, 1877, in Dresden, Germany.
1877.
1877. Tanzler grew up in Imperial Germany, but at some point wound up in Australia just prior to the outbreak of World War One. It was around 1920. He actually married, I think it would have been his first and only wife, I believe, Doris Schaefer. And together, Schaefer. And together they actually had 2 children, Aisha and Clarissa, I think is how you pronounce that. So yeah, I think Clarissa died when she was 10 years old, sadly, as well. So
Clarissa wasn't a barista.
Got to put a little drama in there, haven't we? So yeah, she died.
Drama. Ignore the necrophilia.
Yeah, ignore that. In 1926, so he emigrated to the United States from Germany, sailing from Rotterdam on February the 6th, 1926, to Havana, Cuba. And then from Cuba, he settled in Florida, where his sister had already emigrated and was later joined by his wife and 2 daughters. So little family gathering, and they've emigrated.
That was in Australia, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, where are we?
No.
America, United States.
Oh, yeah.
So he, in 1927, this is when he took up the job of being a radiologist at the US Marine Hospital in Key West, as we mentioned earlier. But he actually changed his name a little bit. It was Carl von Kossel. Don't know why.
Cool.
Change your name for a new job.
It's surprising that because he's so German, that he hasn't got Carl with a K, you know.
It's very confusing because in all accounts where all the information that you find, it is with a C. But when they give his name as George Carl Tanzler, the Carl is actually spelled with a K, like yours.
Oh.
So yeah.
Maybe he changed it because he didn't like it.
Maybe.
It seems to be that he's not too into the German thing right now because he went to Australia and then to America. So
I suppose for a better life, I don't know if you can say that, but you know,
just westernizing names, and they always do that.
Yeah,
like immigrants. Yeah.
But it was actually one point we need to discuss really is that during his childhood back in Germany, I think he travelled to Italy, and he claimed to have been visited by visitors of the dead. I believe it was an ancestor of his, which was Countess Anna Constantina van Kozel. Maybe van Kozel was one of his names that he was given. Yeah, I guess it was a previous name that his family used, and that she actually revealed the face of his true love and a exotic dark-haired woman. So eventually, basically, what we've got here is a vision of a dark-haired woman would eventually come to Carl in his life.
Been there.
Did she? So, enter Maria Milagro de Hoyos. It's such a mouthful. I'm really sorry if
I love the names in this.
Messed that up. So, lot of names to remember.
Give it us again.
Maria Milagro de Hoyos.
That sounded good to me.
Cool. Thank you. So, on April the 22nd, 1930, while working at the hospital, the Marine Hospital, Tanzler met Maria. And as we mentioned, she was a local Cuban-American woman who had been brought to the hospital by her mother for an examination. It doesn't say what exactly, but it turns out why she was ill. So Tanzler immediately recognized her as the beautiful dark-haired woman that had been revealed to him in his early visions that we discussed earlier. So because she was dark-haired, beautiful, a lot younger than him as well, she was actually born in 1909, with Tanzler being born in 1877, so quite an age difference.
Yeah, that's like 20 odd years, Like 25 years or something.
I'm glad you're better at maths than I am, because I can't work it out.
Did you say 1902, did you?
She was born 1909 and he was born in 1877. So yeah, like 22 years or something like that.
No, like 32 years, isn't it?
32 years it is, yeah.
Wow.
32 years. So, okay, quite an age difference, you know. But he basically falls for her because he's dark-haired mystery.
Love finds a way.
Yeah.
Especially if it's giving you visions of definitely her, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely her. It's definitely her. So, so a bit of a background for Eleanor. She was actually the daughter of a local cigar maker, Francisco Hoyos, and Aurora Milagro. She had two sisters, and one of them actually succumbed to TB, which is weird and quite sad, because this is ultimately the death that Maria eventually had. So
it was rampant back then, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
I believe that she was married as well, but he actually left her after she suffered a miscarriage. I mean, what kind of guy does that? Dreadful.
Yeah.
So I guess he was like, well, she can't give me children, see you later, which is awful. She was eventually diagnosed with tuberculosis, very, very fatal at that time. I mean, I suppose people probably die from it now, but it's just not as not around as much as it. So and it's treatable, isn't it, as well? So they've got we have injections back in the day for those?
Yeah, we had the vaccine, but I don't believe that they actually still do it now because they don't need to anymore.
That's right. Yeah,
few people get it, but I swear I heard something about someone in some country having it. It's still something that does pop up every now and then. Although animals maybe, and they didn't want that to jump to people. But either way, it's still something we can deal with now. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got up to just stating that she had the disease. And Tanzler, with his self-professed medical knowledge, even though he wasn't a doctor, he attempted to treat and cure Eleanor with a variety of medicines, as well as X-rays and electrical equipment that were brought to Hoyos' home. Her home.
Oh, her. So he just went to her home to start treating her.
Yeah. With what? Just random medicines.
Yeah.
Like herbal and homeopathic stuff, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, Tanzler actually showered her with gifts like jewelry and clothing, and professed his love to her. But no evidence has come about that she had any affection for him. So it was just one way love.
Yeah, not reciprocated.
Nope, not reciprocated. That's a very good word, reciprocated.
Okay, we've all been there, though. We've all been there. Everyone has to deal with that at some point.
Very true. Not so much now, but very true.
Not so much for me because, beautiful, but
yes, you are. But yeah, despite Tanzler's efforts, sadly, Eleanor died of tuberculosis at her parents' home in Key West on October the 25th, 1931. He actually paid for the funeral costs with permission from her family, and then he commissioned the construction of an above-ground mausoleum in the Key West Cemetery, which he visited almost every night. Here we get to the interesting bit. So, on one evening in April of 1933, Tanzler crept through the cemetery where Eleanor was buried, and he removed her body.
Okay.
Carting it through the cemetery after dark on a toy wagon and transporting it to his home.
So he paid for the mausoleum and all that stuff, and then it's like, oh, I'm taking it.
Suppose it's like a cover-up. Like, oh yeah, I'll look after her. Now,
yeah.
He reportedly said that Eleanor's spirit would come to visit him often, and would sit by a grave and serenade her corpse with her favourite Spanish song. He also said that she would often tell him to take her from the grave.
Right.
Yeah, man.
It seems like once he actually met her, he was probably doing a little bit better mentally wise. Like he was seeing all this stuff before. Then at least when he was with her, taking care of her, he was kind of together from the sound of it. Now he had complete no. again.
Well, I mean, not much is known about like his early life. Obviously, he emigrated to America and got a job in a hospital. I mean, what fair play to him. Like he's made a better life for himself in a different country. But to go this extreme, I mean, yeah.
How
So
old was he? Would he have been at this point? Did you
So
say how old she was?
this is 1933, and he was born in 1877.
He'd have been like 50,
50s,
something.
something like that. Yeah. Just one key thing here is that he actually attached her bones together. If you think about it, she was decomposing, so he actually attached her bones together with piano wire.
Oh wow!
With the decomposition of a body, her eyes would have gone. So he replaced those with glass eyes. And as the skin was again decomposing, or at least it had been decomposed, he replaced it with silk cloth coated in wax and plaster of Paris. And as the hair fell out from the scalp, he made a wig from her hair. Maybe he kept locks of it around the house. I don't know. But so like her hair would fall out constantly. So he'd just keep like he'd like bring it all together and make a wig for her.
Yeah.
And he actually filled her abdominal and chest cavities with rags to keep the original setting of the body. The shape. Yeah. And
baby's gotta look like he remembers.
I've shown you the picture, man. Yeah, that's the picture of her encased in the wax, and that's around 1940. That picture was taken.
So that was her dead, all done up.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And he dressed her with, Eleanor's remains of her clothing and jewelry. And he kept the body in his bed, and he used copious amounts of perfume, disinfectants, and preserving agents to mask the odor. Of course, the corpse's decomposition and like the smell. Can you imagine that? Just like living with it in your bed. It's just like proper creepy. You've seen the photo. It's horrific. It reminds me of you've seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's Psycho as well, but like the face. So yeah, I mean, this goes on for years. He's been living with that body in his bed. In October of 1940. Eleanor's sister, Florida, heard rumors of Tanzler sleeping with her sister's body and confronted Tanzler at his home, where her body was eventually discovered. So I'm guessing that's where the photo was taken, the one that I shared.
Yeah. Or we could have took it, but most likely, back then, yeah.
Apparently, I don't know if it was a young boy or a young girl, had apparently saw Tanzler like dancing with the body in his front living room.
Oh.
I wonder what other activities he got up to with this body.
Probably quite a few, man. I guarantee there's a lot of stuff that didn't get looked at, and I just realised what you might have meant, and now I'm like, oh.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Not good.
But yeah, as long as you got some lube. I
don't think you need it. It'll be all,
It'll be dry, I imagine.
Yeah, true. There would be nothing there anyway. Oh, nasty.
I'd stick a flashlight in or something,
God. But it was obviously arrested and detained. So I can't think of the word. Cut this bit out. It was examined mentally.
Oh, okay.
And he was actually found mentally,
like a psychological test thing.
Yeah, psychological test, and he was found mentally competent to stand trial on the charge of destroying a grave and removing a body without authorization. So just those, nothing else.
Oh, that's all you got done for.
Yeah.
I suppose what else would you get done for, really, other than?
I suppose I haven't got evidence of necrophilia, but I'm not.
Is necrophilia illegal technically?
I don't know. I hope it is. It's a bit weird.
It's one of them weird things. Like, for example, cannibalism in most countries isn't actually illegal. What's illegal is like the obtaining of it. Mm-hmm. So once again, like in this situation, the obtaining it, which is illegal.
After the hearing on October the 9th, 1940. at the Key West County Courthouse.
Yeah.
Tanzler was held to answer on the charge, but the case was eventually dropped and he was released as the statute of limitations for the crime had expired. So,
okay.
because it was like, was it 8 years? Yeah, something like 8 years, which isn't much really, that he actually took the body out, and then the statute of limitations for the crime had expired. A bit weird, but hey ho.
So what was the time frame for that then exactly? So it would have been
1933. That's when he took the body out, and then by October 1940, that's when they dropped the case.
Oh, that's weird, yeah.
Yeah, strange.
But,
not very long.
I've just looked at something here though for America, and apparently, sexual penetration of a corpse was made illegal under the Sexual Offences Act of 2003.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it says here actually, prior to 2003, necrophilia was not illegal. However, exposing a naked corpse in public was classed as a public nuisance.
Oh, just a nuisance.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. That's why he wasn't charged for stuff like that.
There you go, then, yeah. But the obtaining is still.
Learn something new every day. Shortly after the corpse's discovery by authorities, Eleanor's body was examined by physicians and pathologists. I can't say that word. Can't speak to that.
Pathologists. I can't speak any day, man. I understand.
And it was actually put on public display at Dean Lopez Funeral Home, where it was viewed by as many as 6,000 people. Weird. It was eventually returned to Key West Cemetery, where the remains were buried in an unmarked grave in a secret location to prevent further tampering. I guess they were like, Carl, listen here. You've been very naughty. You've been very naughty with that corpse. We're going to bury it somewhere you'll never find it. And that's what they did.
It's like telling someone specifically they're not allowed to squeeze people's muscles.
They're just going to do it again, aren't they?
Yeah, squeeze is going to squeeze. Grave digger's going to dig.
Well, I have to say, sadly, Carl, not you, but Carl Tanzler, did not try this again. You are KD. We'll call you KD in this episode.
In his life.
Yeah, in this lifetime.
So he didn't do it again, then you said?
No. So though not reported, research has revealed evidence of Tanzler's necrophilia with Eleanor's corpse. Two physicians who attended the 1940 autopsy of Eleanor's remains recalled in 1972 that a vaginal tube had been inserted in the vaginal area of the corpse that allowed for intercourse.
Fucking fleshlight, I told you.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, man. Me and this guy are, sadly, on the same wavelength, at least when it comes to how to do it.
It's fine. Yeah. Others stated that since no evidence of necrophilia was presented at the 1940 hearing, and because the physician's proof surfaced in 1972, which was actually over 30 years after the case had been dismissed, the necrophilia allegation is questionable. Which, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
While no existing photographs of autopsy or photographs are taken at the public display a tube, the necrophilia claim was repeated by HBO autopsy program in 1999. So I'm guessing people try to still make out that necrophilia did happen with his body.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably something you can do in regard to that, because even if necrophilia itself is, and I know a lot of states had different laws too, so surely that probably depends on it.
Yeah.
And ways around it, and also probably if you're putting a tube up there, I imagine you can turn it into some kind of messing with the body too, damaging the body. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's just horrible, isn't it, to think about stuff like that? Like when I read about, guess where I heard about this, Carl?
YouTube.
Yeah. So when I heard about it, I was just like, oh, that's interesting. So I've got a long list of things to cover on the podcast, and I picked it up and I was like, yes, that'll be a good one.
Yeah.
And I like how we've picked up on the same time where it's dark.
Yeah.
Disturbing one. But yeah, as I say, with Tanzler, in 1944, he didn't try this again with anybody else. Didn't fall in love, sadly. 1944, he moved to Pasco County, Florida, where he wrote an autobiography that appeared in the pulp publication Fantastic Adventures in 1947. His home was near his wife Doris, who apparently helped to support Tanzler in his later years. He actually received citizenship in the United States in 1950 within Tampa, so been there long enough. Separated from his obsession, Tanzler used a death mask to create a life-size Eleanor and live with it until his death at age 75 on July the 3rd, 1952.
Right.
So I guess he like recreated like the image of Eleanor.
Death mask is like what they used to do back in the day, and they used to like put like essentially plaster Paris over the face and get a cast of the face. Yeah.
Weird. So yeah, as I say, he passed away. His body was discovered on the floor of his home 3 weeks after his death. He died under the name of Carl Tanzler, because one of his names that he did give, which I don't know if we covered, was Count Carl van Kossel. But by all accounts, nobody knows if he was a count. So he was a bit of a bullshitter as well. So I was doing it, necrophiliac and a bullshitter. He died. I don't think they worked out how he died. I think it was just like natural causes. He's quite
the biggest murderer of all his time.
It's very true. Maybe we should cover time on our podcast one day.
The many crimes of time. Yo, it's crime time.
Crime time, yes. R.I.P. Shaq Gaspard.
Yeah.
It's been reported that he actually died in the arms of the I think it was like a life-size Eleanor that he made. So he died in the arms of it. But it's never been confirmed. So yeah.
Oh, so it could easily be a story that passed.
Yeah, just rumours to make it up.
Everyone likes an ending that incorporates the middle. You know. It seems like for once this is someone that I would say is not a bad person, not an evil person, just a bit messed up and didn't know how to deal without someone, and you know, just, there was something wrong with him, obviously.
Yeah, there's something wrong with him. He was a radiologist and he thought he was a doctor. Yeah, listen to this though. Apparently, it's claimed that Tanzler had the body switch, or that Eleanor's remains were secretly returned to him, and that he died with the real body of Eleanor. So I know we mentioned about that fake one that he had built or created. Yeah. Apparently that was the real Eleanor, but again, it's just stories. We don't know if that's true. We don't know.
That makes no sense.
But yeah, it's I mean, it's really confusing, that one is. I don't know really where to go with it, because as you say, like, he's not the worst person in the world, but it's a bit creepy.
It's weird. It's weird and creepy, and once again, it's still interesting in my opinion, because I don't get how someone could go like that. Especially, to be fair as well, because they were smart enough. I assume there's some kind of test you have to do to become a radiologist in the first place.
Yeah, you know, looks like he could be really intelligent.
He got the look of it.
He also looks a little bit like he could be a villain in a Batman or any Marvel or DC kind of series. So fair play to him.
I could imagine him being played by John Malkovich in a film of his life.
Interesting you should say that. I mean, there's no reports of John Malkovich playing it, but they
can make it questionable whether he killed her too, you know, to make it a bit more dramatic.
That would be quite interesting to see. I would like to see that. Just the downfall of his life, maybe. Like, why did he become so obsessed with her to like steal her corpse?
Just the fact that, you know, in the first place, it just wasn't even her anyway. Just he saw someone that kind of looked like her.
Just a little bit like her. But have you ever seen Corpse Bride?
Yeah.
It reminded me of that a little bit, just because I think he claimed that she was his wife as well.
Yeah, that she'd agreed to marry him from the beyond or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. She said she visited him at the grave and said, "Please marry me, Carl. You helped me so much."
Isn't till death do us part? Didn't that create a bit of a paradox?
Good point. Yeah, I hope you. Well, I say enjoyed that. I hope you found that weird.
I found that weird and/or interesting.
Weird and/or interesting and/or wonderful.
There's it's weird because like some of the stuff you said in there has parallels to my story.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like the different
Interesting.
aliases. You said something about photographs as well, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a few different things in there. One thing, for example, though, that I will say about my subject this week, he may be an evil bugger, but like me and like you, he does know how to dress. I like to
Okay.
think we have this in common. If you're like you and me and you hate clothes with a big name across the chest and you feel like a walking billboard for a company that doesn't even pay its workers a fair wage, then you should visit Nobody's Priority Clothing. See the segue I'm doing. I'll get better at the delivery, but the segue was on point.
I love your segues. They always make me smile.
They're either very good or forced in, like the story you just mentioned a moment ago.
Yes.
But yeah, so Nobody's Priority Clothing, they have a multitude of clothing with various designs that scream creativity rather than screaming, I'm a chav bitch. Nobody's Priority Clothing available via Facebook and teespring.com right now. You can use the promo code KDPromo right now to receive a whole 25% off your order, because here at the Kd and Kersey podcast, we just can't help but give you the best deal, guys.
Very true.
We just can't help it. So once again, Nobody's Priority Clothing is available right now via Facebook and teespring.com. Use promo code KDPromo to receive 25% off. But remember, that's zeros in place of the two O's when you do it. So KDPR0M0. What is that again, Aaron? How do you spell that?
That is KDPR0M0.
That's the one it fucking is. Please help support the channel by buying some sexy ass clothes today. And there will be Kd and Kersey merchandise coming soon, babies. So anyway, then my story this week is entitled "The Dating Game Killer."
Oh yes.
So yeah, I am going to start first of all. And you are right; it is quite a dark story.
Yeah.
I'm going to start it off first of all in 1978. Rodney Alcala is one of the most prolific serial killers in history. No one can be sure how many victims exactly he has. It was believed that he would toy with his victims, keep them alive as long as possible, prolong the suffering. It is believed that his death count could be anywhere as high as up to 130. However, he gets his name after he appeared on a dating game, on the American show, The Dating Game, back in 1978. So I thought we would start here, considering this was most people's first. This is the first time most people were able to see Rodney Alcala.
Do you know one thing about that dating game show? Yeah, it's basically blind date, isn't it? Like
yeah,
the UK.
Well, I've got some clips of it here to show you.
Oh, brilliant.
And welcome to the dating game. It's time to meet our first three eligible bachelors for game number one. Bachelor number one is a successful photographer who got his start when his father found him in the dark room at the age of 13, fully developed. Please welcome Rodney Alcala. Rod, welcome. Here is a young lady with a wealth of experience. She once earned a living massaging feet, but she quit when her boss suggested that she work her way up. Sensational Cheryl Bradshaw. Hello, Cheryl. And we're going to start by having them say hello to you and see how they sound. Number one, would you say hello to Cheryl, please?
We're going to have a great time together, Cheryl.
Okay, and here we go.
Bachelor number one.
Yes.
What's your best time?
The best time is at night, nighttime,
Why do you say that?
because that's the only time there is.
The only time? What's wrong with morning, afternoon?
Well, they're okay, but nighttime's when it really gets good. Then you're really ready.
I'm a drama teacher, and I'm going to audition each of you for my private class. Bachelor number one. You're a dirty old man. Take it.
Come on, over here. Come on, over here. Come on, over here.
Bachelor number 1, I am serving you for dinner.
Oh.
What are you called, and what do you look like?
I'm called the banana, and I look really good.
Can you be a little more descriptive?
Peel me.
Later, Bachelor 1, later.
Who gets the dates?
Well, I like bananas, so I'll take 1.
Number 1. Bachelor number 1. All right. He's a skydiver, so he's got a lot of nerve. He's into motorcycling. He's also a fine photographer. Say hello to Rodney Alcala. Rodney, come on and say hello. Congratulations, Rod. You did it with a 1 answer. Tennis? Thank you. Rodney, thank you. Okay. You can go relax, meet each other.
So in regards to that, that was he won, but apparently after spending a short amount of time backstage together, she decided that he was creepy, and she said no to the date in the end.
It was before the date. I couldn't remember that. She got off really well. She got she was lucky basically, wasn't she? So fair. Well done to her.
So yeah, that was a slight intro into what got him the famous name of the dating game killer, Mr. Rodney Alcala. So many would assume that he was on the show before he was on the police radar.
Yeah.
This wasn't the case though at all. To explain fully, we have to go back 10 years to 1968 to the quaint suburb of Hollywood, Los Angeles. Rodney Alcala was an apartment owner who had a love of all things media related, from photographs to film. 4 years prior to 1968, Alcala had suffered a nervous breakdown during his time as a clerk in the United States Army. During this episode, he went AWOL and hitchhiked back to his mother's house. He was dismissed on medical grounds as a military psychiatrist diagnosed him with an antisocial personality disorder. He would also later get, I think, like you said as well, a whole multitude of different, personality and mental disorders attributed to him, but I didn't list them all. Upon leaving the army, Alcala enrolled and graduated from the UCLA School of Fine Arts and eventually settled down in said Hollywood apartment that he purchased or rented. And this would eventually be the scene of his first known attack. So back to 1968, 8-year-old Tali Shapiro was walking to school when she was approached by Alcala in a car. He eventually persuaded her that he was a friend of her parents and that he would give her a lift to school. Luckily, this was witnessed by a passerby who felt it seemed suspicious and followed Alcala's car until they arrived at Alcala's apartment, in which he led Tali inside, and the eyewitness promptly rang the police once he, saw what was going on and he was taking her in. So fair dues to him, first of all.
Definitely.
The police arrived shortly thereafter, and after a brief discussion at the door, they were forced to kick it down to gain access, because he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll open it in a minute," because they can only do so much, Once they gained entry, there was no sign of Alcala fleeing the apartment in the time between talking to the police at the door and then gaining entry. However, what they did see would stay with them for the rest of their lives. Laying face down in a large pool of her own blood was 8-year-old Tali Shapiro. She had been raped and beaten with a steel bar, but was miraculously still alive. Alcala, however, like we said, had fled the state and then enrolled in the NYU, which is, I believe, the New York University Film School, under the alias John Berger. He would eventually change that to John. That was John Berger, B-E-R-G. He would eventually change it a few years later to B-U-R-G for some reason, like the food. But most interestingly, while at New York University, he was taught in his film studies by none other than Roman Polanski.
Ah, another interesting character.
Yeah, he's someone that I know is an interesting character, but I don't really know much of. I don't know what he did. What
Big film
I assume it's
director.
something to do with kiddie fiddling or something like that.
Yeah, it was a 13-year-old girl, I believe. So Roman Polanski was film director. His wife was Sharon Tate, and she was actually murdered by the Manson family.
Oh yeah, I know that name.
And she was pregnant with his child. And then years later, he had sexual relations with a 13-year-old.
And that's been proven.
Yeah, there's she wrote a book about it as well, and it's like up in the air if it was. I mean, she's 13. I think he was like trying to say it was like consensual and stuff. But he's well, so he's
that age, can he? So.
Well, no, not at all.
But they definitely had. It's not just written in a book, though.
No, it's been proven. I think he was about to be tried for, and he was going to get prison sentence, but he fled the country. I can't think where. America, I think. I can't remember now. Where he is at the moment, but yeah, he's in one place and he can't return back there. But
yeah, but he still make films because he has made films.
He's made a couple of films since being basically convicted of it. And
like the Jeepers guy, isn't it?
Yeah, very much like the Jeepers Creepers guy. What's his name now? Can't think.
I don't know it. Don't care enough to know it.
Victor Salva, that's him. Yeah, I think he's in prison now.
Yeah, so I mean, anyway, then so all that happened. It's shocking she was still alive, after that attack. Anyway, but obviously, just because he got interrupted, the only reason she was attacked because he liked to prolong it all,
That's right.
So that was 1968. Then, so fast forward to 1971, 3 years since fleeing the state after the horrible attack of Tali Shapiro. Rodney Alcala, now using the slightly altered alias of John Berger, like the food. Managed to obtain a counselling position at a New Hampshire arts camp for children. In the early months of 1971, Rodney Alcala was officially added to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. However, in June 1971, Cornelia Crilly was found raped and strangled to death in her Manhattan apartment. But her murder would actually remain unsolved until 2011.
Wow, it went on that long. I didn't realise that.
That murder, yeah. This would actually become known as Alcala's definitive first known murder. Very possible there was others, though, included, like we said. But that's the definitive first time we know of that he killed someone.
Yep.
Shortly after this, 2 children who attended the arts camp recognized his photo on an FBI poster at the local post office and notified the authorities. Alcala was promptly arrested and extradited back to California to stand trial in the rape and attempted murder of 8-year-old Talia Shapiro.
I hate when kids are involved.
Yeah.
That's the worst part. At least he survived, but that kid, poor kid, going to grow up with those haunting images of that dude. I mean, was anything did we hear anything back about her later life at all? Is that ever discussed? Because that's the one thing that gets me with stuff like that, like how they are later on in life.
It depends on the person, and I mean, there's not too much in regards to adult life or anything, but one thing we can say is that the evidence was all set and the investigators were confident in the work they'd done. But fate would shine on Rodney Alcala again, because what actually happened was Tali's parents, the reason we don't know much about what happened and all that about her life, is they relocated the entire family back to Mexico in those 3 years and refused to allow her to return to America to testify in Alcala's trial. Didn't want to put her through that.
Fair.
Which you understand, but the issue is that due to this, they were unable to convict Alcala of rape and attempted murder, and prosecutors were forced to convict him of the lesser charge of assault, in which Alcala pled guilty, and he was released 17 months later.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only bad thing about it. It should have gone down for a lot more. But I can see it from one point of view of like being the parents and not wanting their child to be involved in that, because it's just quite scary at that age as it is, and to survive as well.
Yeah, you can understand it from both ways completely. It's just a shame because obviously we know that this wasn't the end of the story, and it
Nope.
could have been the end there, you know.
Could have been.
So yeah, so 17 months later,
Yep.
he was released / paroled. This was due to the indeterminate sentencing program. This is a popular program that allowed the parole board to release offenders as soon as they felt they showed some evidence of rehabilitation. Less than 2 months after he was released due to this, he was actually arrested again after assaulting a 13-year-old girl after she accepted a ride to school from Alcala, much like he did with Tally Shapiro. Yeah, strangely, not much information is available about this one.
Don't remember that bit.
No, this seems to be due to the family again wanting privacy. But there
Mm.
was also he was also done at the same time for in this case for providing the 13-year-old girl with marijuana. She also said that he kidnapped her, but he wasn't convicted of any of that. Just assault, it seems, and providing marijuana to a minor.
Minor. Was she 13, you say?
Yeah,
We've got another Marty Jannetty on our hands.
yeah, man. To be fair, this makes Marty Jannetty look like a pussycat. This man does.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It gets much worse. Well, yeah. However, much like before, Alcala, he just had a string of good luck, essentially, of fate looking down on him. Yeah, much like before, man. He was paroled in 1977 after only serving 2 years of his sentence due to the indeterminate sentencing program once again, because he was a sweet talker, as you can tell from the dating game thing. You know, he knew how to.
So cringy, wasn't it? And he was like, "Rah."
Yeah, but it worked. Later that year, though, anyway, after being released in 1977, Alcala was given permission by his Los Angeles parole officer, weirdly, to travel to New York, despite being a flight risk and a violent repeat offender. And while in New York, he murdered 23-year-old Ellen Hover, who was the goddaughter of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. Means anything to you, those names? I feel like they would.
Yeah. Dean Martin, you know, they were part of the Rat Pack. Dean Martin.
Okay.
Dean Martin was in films as well.
Yeah, so her remains were discovered to have been buried at the Rockefeller estate. This case would also remain unsolved until the previously mentioned 2011 case involving the murder of Cornelia Crowley in 1971. But following this, he would start working at the Los Angeles Times as a typesetter, but merely used it as a cover to persuade men and women that he was a professional photographer and would take sexually explicit photos of all types of people, men, women, older people, and children too, teenagers. It was believed that these photos, which numbered over 1,000, could include photos of unidentified victims.
Wow.
Due to the nature of some of the photos, some photos were taken, after attacks. Some photos were taken before and had been, linked to missing persons and been identified, found them that way. Yeah, so that brings us to 1978 and his appearance on the dating game, in which he won, but later was rejected, as we said, after she found him creepy. But that makes a good a question, what would that have done to him at the time, being rejected like that, if it was all legit?
Yeah, definitely. Like, would that just enrage him and go on another spree of even more? Was it always women as well? It was, wasn't it? Always women. I don't think he ever. You murder any men? Don't think he did.
No.
It seems like the spree was just for women and younger girls as well from those two counts as well. So
to be fair, it's not just younger though, because I mean that. Did I say that Ellen Hover was 23? That Cornelia, I think she was older as well, something like that kind of age.
Yeah.
But the next definitive attack or anything that happened with him was June 20th, 1979. I'll tell you the story. So 12-year-old Robin Samso from Huntington Beach disappeared somewhere between the beach and the ballet class she was on her way to. Her body would be discovered 12 days later, dumped in the Los Angeles foothills. Robin had left her friends at the beach to walk to a ballet class on the day she disappeared. Her friends would tell police that a man had approached them and tried to persuade them to let him take photos of her. Of all of them, sorry. After completing a sketch with a criminal sketch artist, it was circulated, and Alcala's parole officer recognized him and then informed the police. Police were able to find an earring that belonged to Robin Samso in a storage locker that belonged to Rodney Alcala.
Alcala.
What is his name again? Alcala. That's it. Yeah.
Alcala.
I tried to do wrong there. Jesus. Yeah. So stories like that belonged to Rodney Alcala. They found an earring that was believed to be Robin Samso's. He was arrested in July 1979 and held without bail. In 1980, he was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death for the murder of 12-year-old Robin Samso. What do you think happened next?
I don't know. I can't remember. Is my answer.
Shortly after the trial, the verdict was actually overturned by the California Supreme Court as jurors were apparently improperly informed of his prior sex crimes, whatever that means. I'm guessing they were made to sound worse, or in their opinion, or built up a bit. I don't know. So that was 19. Oh, actually, it doesn't say what year was actually overturned. It sounded like when I was reading it, it was pretty soon after. So I'm assuming in 1980 or 1981.
Yeah.
So about 5 years later, in 1986, the trial was essentially repeated with a new batch of jurors, but this time the details of his criminal record and previous sex crimes were not included in the evidence, so were deemed not admissible by the judge. But this didn't actually matter in the end, as he was again convicted and sentenced to death. But in another twist of fate, Alcala received yet another chance at freedom when his conviction was nullified by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. This was made possible because they were able to prove that a witness was, and I quote, not allowed to support Alcala's contention that the park ranger that found Robin's body had been hypnotized by police investigators. I'm guessing it doesn't mean literally hypnotized.
Yeah. So
look into my eyes. Look into my eyes. You're a murderer.
You're under, and you're a murderer.
Yeah.
Ow. My brain hurts because he just seems to have got a lot away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's just so obviously guilty of it all as well.
Yeah, and just the pure cheese of him. He should be put away for being so cheesy and doing those really weird voices on that game show. Oh God, gives you nightmares and yeah.
That was 1986, the second case. Then, so imagine once again. Doesn't say exactly how long after it was turned around, so we're assuming like another year or two.
Yeah.
But either way, jump forward about to 2003 now. From the sounds of it, it seems like he was held for most of this time because there wasn't anything else after this and stuff.
Yeah, like no murders and stuff that.
Yeah, it seemed because he was held. It did say before he was held without bail, and each time he got overturned, a new trial was set in place. So maybe there was a bit more time actually between that one and this one.
Probably. Yeah.
But in 2003, then, while preparing for the third prosecution of the same case, the DNA fairy seemed to come a calling for Rodney Alcala finally.
Yes.
Investigators learned that Alcala's DNA had actually been linked now to 4 cold cases. Following this, he was indicted for murder of, and I will list them off for you. First of all, there was Jill Barcombe, who was 18. She was a New York runaway found rolled up like a ball in a Los Angeles ravine in 1977. It seems like some of these as well, and some of the other ones, they may not. His MO seemed to change a lot in regards to sometimes they were just dumb. Sometimes he would actually go out of his way to set up their bodies in, like weird stances or weird things,
Yeah, of course.
To be a bit arty-farty. It just made me think of Hannibal for some reason, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
Lambs and all that. She was actually originally thought to have been linked to the Hillside Strangler, though, Jill Barcombe, which is another reason why they didn't realise for a while, I guess.
Fair.
And it seems like the age is too, because all these are more older. So there was also Georgia Wickstead, 27, who was bludgeoned to death in a Malibu apartment in 1977. There was Charlotte Lamb, 31, found raped and strangled to death in a laundry room in the El Segundo apartment complex in 1978, which was the same year as a dating game appearance. Doesn't say what time of the year, so
yeah,
could have been after, like we was on about. but there was also Jill Parenteau, 21, who was also killed in her apartment in Burbank, 1979. The prosecution, after learning this, entered a motion to join the third Robin Samsoe case with the charges involved with the 4 new victims linked to Alcala via the DNA. In 2006, the California Supreme Court, who were the ones that originally overturned the first prosecution, ruled in the prosecution's favour this time. And in February 2010, Rodney Alcala stood trial for the murders of all 5 women. However, Alcala had yet another trick in the works. For the third trial, he decided he would act as his own attorney.
This never goes down well, does it?
Never goes well.
Not at all. We know all of these people that act as their own attorney when they're actually serial killers. Ted Bundy.
Yeah, he actually did a good job, didn't he, apparently?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. But it wasn't he doing some study for law anyway? So
yeah, he was already studying for something, and he was just a clever dude in general. And he even used his access to the library as another escape.
Right. That's right. It is brilliant way to escape police custody.
I was really disappointed with the Zac Efron film that came out like that, because it was more based around his love life.
Yeah, I was hoping for a bit more. It was okay, you know, if you're a Bundy fan, so to speak, and you want to
like fangirl more.
Yeah, fangirl stuff. If you like to, you know, just a standard story, but more dramatized and love involved in it, like a Disney movie.
Yeah, love orientated. Yes.
Yeah. All lovey-dovey, then that's the movie for you. That's fair.
Yeah. If you like your romantic comedies with a little bit of murder thrown in.
And an 8-pack. James Hetfield's also in that film as well.
Who?
James Hetfield from Metallica. The lead singer of Metallica.
Oh, that dude, yeah.
Yeah, he is one of the police guards in it, which is weird. I was like, James Hetfield without a beard.
Okay, here we are then. So he would, as we said, then he would elect to take the stand in his own defence, and he would actually play the roles of both interrogator and witness. He would ask himself questions, addressing himself as Mr. Alcala in a deeper than usual voice, and then answered in his own regular voice. Sadly, apparently he wasn't allowed to get up and walk to each position as he did this, so that killed it.
Yeah, that would have been great.
That would have been. He also repeatedly told the jurors that he couldn't have killed Robin Samsoe as he was applying for a photography job at the time of her kidnapping. Oh. He would also go to great lengths to prove that the earring found in his storage locker was his and not that of Robin's. He seemed, which was just a bit bullshit, really. But either way, he put a lot of work into that, but he seemed to forget that he was also on trial for the other 4 women's murders too, offering nothing more than the fact that he, and quote, doesn't remember killing any of these women when he was asked about them. During the closing argument, he played a song called Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie, which is a song that tells a story of a person informing a psychiatrist that he wants to kill.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that song either, so yeah.
No, same. That is just part of his closing argument, though, because I actually have another little clip here to show you of some of his closing argument, just a little brief summary of some of that final trial, and you'll see what he looks like as well. And honestly, by this point, he straight up looks like a elderly Weird Al to me. Weird Al Yankovic.
Weird Al Yankovic, yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a look there anyway.
During a 2-hour, often rambling closing argument Monday afternoon, accused serial killer Rodney Alcala, who was defending himself in the death penalty trial, sat at the counsel table and spoke in a dull monotone. Alcala could not make his laptop computer project on the large courtroom screen, and he often scrambled to find photos and other exhibits. Alcala spent some of his argument attacking the credibility of Marianne Connolly, 12-year-old Robin Samsoe's mother. Alcala claimed Connolly, who he refers to as Frazier, Connolly's previous name, made up a story about her daughter's earrings being the same earrings that were found in a Seattle storage locker rented in Alcala's name.
No testimony from anyone other than Mrs. Frazier that Robin's ears were pierced. None of her friends were aware of that. They were unaware of her wearing earrings. And Mrs. Frazier had plenty of opportunity to provide you, the jury, with a picture of Robin wearing earrings. She stated on the stand that she had pictures of Robin, and if Robin, like she says, wore earrings all the time, that was her habit, then there should be some earrings, some pictures with earrings, and there should be some person who isn't familial to testify that Robin wore earrings. However, no one testified other than Mrs. Frazier that Robin wore earrings.
Deputy District Attorney Matt Murphy had brought up the earrings and the storage locker earlier in his closing arguments.
He expressed relief to his sister that the police didn't know about the storage locker. So what does an innocent man have to hide, number one?
And Murphy noted that Alcala had changed the interior of his car shortly after Samso's disappearance.
He put new carpeting in his car. Who does that? Now, he said he spilled gas in there. Okay. Who does that?
Alcala will continue his closing arguments Tuesday morning.
Who does that?
Who does that?
Who does it?
Who does that?
Does it?
I see what you mean about Weird Al, though. That's it's good to point out. It just looks like, I don't know, someone's school teacher though, doesn't he? Now, like that grey hair, really curly as well with those glasses. He's lost a lot of weight, obviously, and
really what?
Lost a lot of weight as well.
Is that girly as well for that?
Yeah, like he looks quite like a bit like a woman.
Funnily enough, when Mom saw the thumbnail of it, because I was when I was setting up the stuff and uploading it all, she saw the thumbnail and I said to her, "Can you just click that one of the woman for me, the dating game one?" She clicked the other one, so you're not on your own there.
Brilliant. It just goes to show just how nuts he was. I mean, like you were telling me, like he was talking in different voices when he was representing himself. The guy's not right. Clearly, he shouldn't be. I mean, maybe he should have been evaluated. I don't know.
He did have some other stuff done. Yeah, he was seen as competent apparently because they let him. Yeah. He seemed like he was with it. Because he didn't have any of the. This is a bit I didn't mention earlier. Actually, he didn't seem to have any of the generic things that most serial killers would have when they were younger. For example, like the bedwetting, the starting, the
bullying,
animals. Yeah. But after less than 2 days of deliberation, though, the jury convicted Rodney Alcala of all 5 counts of murder in the first degree. And reportedly, Tally Shapiro, the 8-year-old he attacked in his apartment, actually appeared as a surprise witness during the penalty phase of the trial, which, from what I gather, is the part where they when they receive sentencings and the victims and the families of the victims have the opportunity to address the guilty person. Of course. Seen that a few times, but over the next 10 years, Alcala, but that was 2010, over the next 10 years, Alcala would be linked to a further, 3 other women since this. Evidence which was obtained in part by DNA and by, like we said, a portfolio of photographs that he kept. 6 families also stated that they recognised loved ones that have disappeared, but nothing further was able to come of these. But anyway, either way, the 2 from 1977, they were included in 2011. They were indicted for that. Yeah, so there was some charges for that. I think he had an extra 25 years to life added on, if I remember correctly. But at this point, whatever.
6 counts of first degree murder originally anyway, wasn't it? So, he's got 5. 5.
Yeah.
So
5 and then 2 more and then other things too, He ain't getting out.
Nah. What he must be 70 now? 70 plus?
It's got to be something like that though, because he looked like around 30 and 78. Yeah, over 100 original photos from the portfolio are still available to view online in a continuing effort to identify the missing people in the photos. Due to Alcala's already elderly age and his ongoing attempts at appeals, it is unlikely that the true number of victims will ever be known, because it doesn't seem to be giving up any hope that he will get out still. But at least he has finally been convicted. He's going to die in prison. And like I said, he looks like elderly weirdo, so he's got that going for him too.
Yeah, fair enough. They could be like, I don't know, pen pals and write about songs about murdering women.
That's pretty much the story, though, basically, of the dating game killer Rodney Alcala.
It's a mind-boggling one, isn't it? Like
Mm.
the one thing that gets me with this one, okay, he's a serial killer, but he had, or nothing's reported that he had like a bad childhood, and this is what, as you said, we always find that they tortured animals, had bad parents that would beat them, bully them. So it's just weird, like how we've got no background as to why he may have come to just murder women. It's just strange.
Yeah, I mean, I believe though it's not necessarily based on that. I mean, that is early signs, but then if something happened, like, apparently the most stressful, the most messed up thing that happened during his childhood was his dad left at like when he was 12 or something, I think, or just at a young age. But that doesn't make you a killer, but it might not help.
I mean, our dads left us when we were young. We're not killers, are we?
No. I wasn't sure if yours had, to be fair. So
yeah, but same sort of story. But yeah, man, I'm not a killer. Bizarre.
It could have been a few things. I mean, it could have even been partly due to his being around Roman Polanski. Probably didn't help, seeing him as some kind of mentor figure,
Yeah.
And before that too, some people. I mean, paedophilia as well. From what I've gathered, because you always think about this in stories. It's like, why would they do it, knowing how messed up it is, how they're going to be hated by everyone when they get found out, not only general public, but even the prisoners too. They're going to kill them and fuck them up in prison. Why would they?
People hate like anything to do with like children, don't they? Like if someone's murdered a child or sexually abused, raped a child, and you go to prison,
anywhere.
That's the worst kind of crime you can do, because the prisoners will just turn on you.
Exactly, and like it begs the question, why would they do that then? And I think it's Louis C.K. made a big point about it. It's like he made a joke about how it just must be really good for them, in the sense of it gets to the point eventually. You have to make it sound silly that it's like an addiction, basically.
Yeah.
So maybe that played into it, in this story. Hence why he didn't have to have the killer thing. But then again, it doesn't explain actually, because some of them were older too. Maybe he just got off on it all, being smarter than people. You can never really tell, can you?
Might have had if his dad left, he might have had a bad relationship with his mum, and then he didn't have much respect for women.
No, he had a good relationship with his mum.
Hence
why after the thing at the army, he hitchhiked back to her straight away.
Of course, my bad.
Yeah, the only reason they actually found the earring in the storage locker was because they searched her house and they found a receipt at hers or something for the storage locker, and then found the earring there. So they were always, talkative, I guess.
Yeah, strange. We'll never know, though, will we? We can't get inside a serial killer's mind and evaluate why he committed these crimes. But
even if they let you get into their mind, you have to assume that you have to take most of it with a pinch of salt as well. Still,
you do. Have you watched Mindhunter on Netflix?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit of a slow burner, isn't it? But it's very interesting to see how the FBI started to profile people.
Yeah. So very good.
Using the co-ed killer.
Ed Kemper.
That's it, Kemper. As like one of their main sources of that. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, he was pretty much the start of all that, weren't he? And it makes sense, because a lot of them back then only got caught when they decided they wanted to get caught.
Yeah,
especially when they didn't know about it, and because of Ed Kemper, and then what they did, because that's like the majority of that is quite true, isn't it?
Yeah, most of it's true. I think
basic facts, anyway.
Yeah, like the two cops, I think the names are different, but I think it's based on a book that was written by one of the FBI agents, if I remember rightly. So yeah. I
always find it strange that BTK is going on during that, because he was quite a while after, weren't he?
Yeah,
I swear it was quite a while, because Mindhunter was like based in the 70s, weren't he?
Yeah, I think it was mid to late 70s, wasn't it? And BTK was captured in the 90s, wasn't it?
I feel like it was the 90s.
Yeah, so I think he started
2005.
Yeah, so he started in the 70s though. So and I think the crime stopped in the 90s, and then he was convicted in the early, like to mid noughties. So yeah.
Yeah, it was 2004. He was arrested,
Okay.
and I'm not going to go through it all, but yeah, basically, yeah, you're right. He's an interesting one. That'll be good to cover one day too.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely. But when I was watching the YouTube videos about Mr. Carl, Mr. Carl Tanzler in this episode, we won't call him Carl Hinken.
No.
The channel that I used actually had a video about good old Rodney, so I watched that previously, but it was quite a short video, so it was missing information. So yeah, good to hear more about it. So thank you for bringing that to me.
That's cool. I mean, a lot of the time when I'm presenting my stories, I will look at like YouTube videos to try and help me figure out, how to present the story. Take little tidbits of, dialogue that I like.
Yeah.
This was the first one where I actually just used all written research, like Wikipedia, and just created the script by scratch. So I was happy with that one.
You did well. No, I liked it. It flowed very nicely. So
thank you.
That's good.
And also as well, this you are more than welcome. We are now officially moving the Kd's comedian quiz off to Fridays, so that will be every other Friday, every 2 weeks still as before, on the JokePit Connecting Comedy Facebook page. What can I talk today? And also on the Kd Comedy YouTube channel. It won't be on the Kd Comedy YouTube channel forever though. It will be moving on to a new channel. Can't talk too much about it now. But announcements will be made over the next couple of weeks, and I'm very excited about everything that is going on that will be involved in this. So I can't wait to inform you guys. But yes, so this Friday, the 18th of September, Kd's Comedian Quiz Off 14. I will be back in the seat of power, and I will have on Alex Plant will be back, the Kd Comedian Quiz Off equivalent to coronavirus, because we can't get rid of him. We'll also have Nathan Parrish. Who will be defending Jack Harris's quiz off crown that he won 4 weeks ago, because obviously the last one was about the podcast episode special that Aidan Pounds and the Never Drinking Again podcast won. We'll also have Griff will be taking part this week, and a mystery opponent as well. If you want to know who that is, you're going to have to watch us at 7 p.m. this Friday, JokePit Connecting Comedy or Kd Comedy YouTube channel. And probably on my own personal one too, but go to the others because they help us a bit more.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man. Big things are popping, little things are stopping, as MVP would say.
I'm coming.
Nobody can hold me. Nobody control me. Nobody. He hates that song, he does.
Don't know why. So,
yeah, I love it.
Get down. Get down.
Tune. All right, cool then. So yeah, we still need to get a proper ending, but it's good enough anyway.
We do.
For everyone out there, thank you very much for watching another episode of the Kd Kersey podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things interesting and all weird, break them down for you, talk about them, see what makes sense, doesn't make sense, and just have an all-around lark. We have a lark.
And thanks for listening if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for listening. I always forget about you guys. I don't forget about you. You're the loveliest apart from the video. I shouldn't have said you're all as lovely as each other. Shut me up, pal. Shut me up, Aaron. Sorry.
Shut up. Get off.
So much love, everyone. I will see you in 2 weeks then, Aaron. I will see everyone watching this in 1 week. I will be with one of my comedian buddies, and then you will be back in the next week after that, hopefully, unless you get shut down on your plane.
Yeah, that's true.
All right,
I'll see you soon, and it's great chatting with you again.
Cool. All right, Leighton, do take care.
You take it easy. I'll speak to you and see you soon.
Peace.
Later.